Free speech.
Free speech.
Free speech.
Free speech. Freedom of speech.
The default position should be free speech rather than censorship.
So here's a question almost nobody's asking. Why would South Korea, a supposed democracy, punish a national archer for posting "Destroy Communism" and "CCP out" on his own social media? Think about that for a moment. We're talking about an Olympic level athlete, a champion, and his crime is criticizing the Chinese Communist Party in a free country. Let that sink in. Because this story isn't really about one athlete, it's about a pattern. A political pattern we've watched unfold in other countries, across years, across regimes, and it's always started the same way. When governments deepen ties with powerful allies, criticism becomes inconvenience. Inconvenience becomes threat, and threat becomes hate speech. The silencing begins quietly, almost politely, wrapped in laws that sound reasonable on paper. We've seen this movie before, and the ending rarely changes. Let me take you back to Venezuela. Hugo Chavez dies, Nicolás Maduro takes power. He promises stability, protecting the revolution, defending the people, the usual political language. But by 2014, Venezuela's economy is collapsing. Protests erupt, people are hungry, angry, and demanding answers. Maduro needs money fast. So he turns to China, and China loans him billions of dollars, the lifeline to keep his regime alive. And suddenly, criticizing China becomes very dangerous. Not officially, not at first, but the pressure is there. The chill is real. By 2017, Maduro removes the subtlety. He pushes the anti-hate law, a law with a noble name, but it carries up to 20 years in prison for inciting hatred. And what counts as hatred? Criticizing the government or criticizing its foreign allies, Russia, China, anyone the regime depends on. Journalists are arrested. Social media is monitored. Opposition leaders vanish into prison cells. The playbook writes itself. Now jump forward. South Korea, November 2025. President Lee Jae-myung urges swift action against archer Jang Chae-hwan. Why? Because he posted anti-CCP messages online. Officials connect his criticism to vague claims of election misinformation. Wait, posting CCP out threatens democracy? Really? Because this is exactly where the pattern becomes familiar. In Venezuela, the regime relied on Chinese financing. In Seoul, the government is aggressively straightening ties with Beijing. And as those ties deepen, the boundaries of acceptable speech begin to shrink. Just weeks earlier, Lee Jae-myung arrives in Seoul for the APEC Summit, and suddenly, police crack down on anti-China protests. Crowds chanting "Korea for Koreans" are dispersed. The government brands them as hate speech. New legislation appears. Bills banning demonstrations that promote discrimination. Penalties for hate speech. Platforms forced to delete posts. Foreigners threatened with deportation for speaking out. Then, on November 11th, Lee called for severe penalties for hate speech and misinformation online. The new Hate Speech Act includes 5 years in prison, heavy fines, mandatory post deletion, censorship obligations for platforms, all wrapped in the same language Venezuela used a decade earlier. And here's the irony. Over 70% of Koreans now distrust China. In 2015, the number was only 16%. The public isn't choosing Beijing, the government is. This is how democracies erode. Venezuela didn't collapse in a single moment. Democracy never does. It happens in stages, small steps, reasonable sounding laws. By 2018, Venezuela is shutting down independent media, accusing them of war propaganda. Political prisoners passed 200 that year alone. Fear spread, speeches die, millions flee, and it all started with laws restricting so-called hate speech. This is how patterns work. They start soft, they end hard. Cambodia offers a more extreme lesson. In 1975, the Khmer Rouge seizes power backed by China. They ban reactionary speech. What is reactionary? Anything critical of the regime or its allies. The punishment isn't fine. It isn't prison. It's death. Intellectuals are killed. Dissent erased. A society scattered. All because speech became a crime. Extreme, yes. But extreme outcomes always start with mild steps. Label dissent as hate, restrict it, criminalize it, then silence anyone who remembers liberty. Now look back at South Korea. Police warned citizens not to criticize Chinese tourists under new visa-free programs. Lawmakers introduced bill after bill targeting anti-China protests, strengthening defamation penalties, and restricting hate promotion rallies. Human rights groups issue warnings. Debate intensifies over freedom of assembly. Civil society pushes back, and the bill keeps pushing forward. And underneath all this is something deeper. In every country that restricts political speech, religious freedom is next. It always is. Because once a government decides what opinions you may hold about politics, it eventually decides what beliefs you may hold about God. Political freedom and religious freedom fall together. And now we return to Jang Chae-hwan. He apologized, but it doesn't matter. He still faces punishment. His career may potentially be over for 2 words: CCP out. So here's the real question. If this pattern continues, how long before your voice is next? How long before criticizing a foreign government, a political policy, or an ideology becomes a criminal offense? Venezuela showed us the ending. Cambodia showed us the ending. History has shown it over and over. The question isn't whether it could happen. The question is whether people will recognize it in time to stop it. Because right now in Seoul, the movie is playing, and the audience is still deciding whether they're going to walk out or sit through the ending we already know.